Patriots, with the ball at their own 36 and 2.5 to play, have a chance at making what was just a few minutes ago a blowout into a tie game. Brady on the verge of an all-time great comeback. Brady drops back. Looking, surveying, pass fired over the middle. It's picked off! It's picked off by Alford. Tackle from behind after the pass was intended for Edelman. Robert Alford's second interception of the game. The first return for a touchdown, and now the second puts a stop to what seemed like an inevitable comeback for the Patriots and Tom Brady. Alford puts the ball back in the MVP Matt Ryan's hands and puts himself squarely as the front runner in the Super Bowl MVP conversation if the Falcons can hold on here. The Atlanta Falcons, after a huge scare at the hands of Belichick and Brady, once up 28-3, managed to hold on and come out on top in Houston and have won Super Bowl 51 28-20. Matt Ryan's Cinderella year has its storybook ending with the mighty Patriots having been slayed.
So, I had an inspiration for a video because I've always wondered how certain events or decisions in history, sports or not, affect it, right? How can one simple change to history, change in an event or switch in a decision have a ripple effect on the rest of how history plays out? Specifically in sports, how does a play being changed or done differently or a different outcome change how we look at an event, an outcome, a sport, right? How does it affect the landscape? So there are so many possibilities to go in this direction, but the first one I thought I had to do was one of the most famous games in recent NFL history. Obviously, you can see it right behind me. This is the Falcons blowing a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. It really affects Brady's legacy, how this game goes, and changing it, I wanted to know how does just changing one thing affect the outcome of that game? And I'm not just going to change the outcome of the game, right? That's cheap, right? Oh, what if the Falcons won the Super Bowl? No. I'm going to change this specific play that you see on the screen, on my two screens behind me, is that Edelman catch. Obviously, remember, famous play, possibly the most famous play of that game. Ball gets tipped in the air, Edelman comes down with the ball 2 inches above the ground, surrounded by 3 Falcons. But what if he never even gets a chance to catch that ball? What if it's not tipped up in the air and instead picked off by Robert Alford, who had the chance to pick it off, goes off his hands, tipped up, and we know what happens? What if he intercepts it? What changes? Obviously, Falcons close out that Super Bowl. Comes close, comes down to the wire, but that was on the drive to tie the game. Patriots don't tie the game, Falcons win. But I wondered what would happen after, in the years to come. Would there be different outcomes? I think there would be. QBs end up on different teams. Different teams win Super Bowls, possibly. A team that made the Super Bowl ends up not even making the playoffs. And the layout of the NFL going forward for franchises looks completely different. Welcome to my new series, What If? Yeah, I wish I had more to say here, but to be honest, nothing much changes this season. I think people like to think that the 28-3 game really just threw the Falcons off a cliff immediately, but you know, the decline was going to happen anyways. Kyle Shanahan left to be the 49ers coach immediately. I mean, he signed a contract with them the day after the game. That wasn't changing whether they won a Super Bowl or not. So I think Matt Ryan's season, that MVP season, was going to decline and rebound back to what we know Matt Ryan to usually be, which is a solid QB the next season anyways, which is what happened. And sure, the offense and Matt Ryan wasn't the same, but I mean, they still went 11-5 the next season. It's not like they cratered off the face of the earth like a lot of Super Bowl losers end up doing. They actually did better than a lot of Super Bowl losers end up doing the season after. They even beat the first-year Sean McVay-led Rams in the playoffs. They lost to the eventual champion Eagles, who, by the way, Philly fans, I'll let you know, still do win Super Bowl 52 in our new timeline. But yeah, I mean, we've seen teams like the Eagles in this 2017 season fall off a cliff right after even winning the Super Bowl. So I don't think them winning a Super Bowl, even though, yeah, it might change the culture there, it might change, the team's confidence in themselves. I don't think them choking games, years down the line changes just because they win this game. And to be honest, I don't think much changes for the Falcons throughout any of this new timeline, really, other than them getting a Lombardi trophy for the first time. I think that's the only thing that changes for them, unfortunately, for Falcons fans. But hey, at least you got a championship, right? But what does change is what's happening in New England now. Because remember, New England loses to the Eagles in Super Bowl 52. That's now 2 straight Super Bowl losses. This once great franchise, still great teams that are being put out there. But we already know what happens in the future in our timeline between Belichick and Brady. The relationship sours, and pretty quickly. 2 straight Super Bowl losses rather than winning that game against the Falcons. Maybe it starts to go sideways even earlier. Some trouble is brewing in Foxborough. '18 is when our Robert Alford butterfly effect finally starts to have an impact. Brady has now lost 2 straight Super Bowls, and frustration is starting to build over. He's getting more criticism than he's ever received in his life, now having lost 4 Super Bowls, twice to the Giants, Falcons, and then the Eagles. And he's still not getting any help at the skill positions on offense, at wide receiver, especially. Patriots refuse or draft poorly at the position. And as we know in real life, the relationship between Brady and Belichick wasn't that good. In real life during this offseason, and especially before camp, he considered staying out and sitting out in demand of a raise. And they gave him a raise, an extension, and an option to head into free agency after 2020. In our timeline, that happens. But earlier in the year, with frustration building over, talk comes out of camp, no official demand for a trade, but talk comes out of Brady's camp that he wants a trade, that he wants to leave New England and start somewhere new because he does not want to be coached by Belichick anymore. Now, he doesn't ever demand a trade, and the Patriots don't trade him, but with the Patriots having traded who they at one time thought was their future QB in Jimmy Garoppolo to the 49ers, earlier in the year in 2017, now they have to start to wonder, okay, if Brady does force our hand, who's going to be our quarterback? We have a good team here. We have a great defense. We need a second option. We need a backup plan. And we need an option after Brady once he eventually does leave, because it seems like he wants to leave at least by 2020. Well, there was one quarterback that they would have positioned themselves to be able to draft in 2018. And there was one quarterback that the Patriots and Bill Belichick did interview. With the 31st pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Lamar Jackson, quarterback, Louisville. Of course, Brady is still the starter, and the Patriots still end up winning the division in a historically weak AFC East that they've owned. But instead of 11-5, they go 9-7, this time with losses to the Bears and the Chiefs. And instead of being the 2 seed at 11-5, they're the 4 seed at 9-7. Also, the Ravens don't end up making the playoffs, as they didn't make that late season push with Lamar Jackson taking over the QB job since he's now on the Patriots, backing up Tom Brady. They instead have to stick with Joe Flacco and can't dump him mid-season, and they end up going 7-9 with the Pittsburgh Steelers, winning the division. With the Chiefs at the 1 seed, they get a bye, but so do the Texans. Everything plays out the same in the NFC as nothing changes over there, but the Chiefs and the Texans get the bye. Steelers are the 3 seed, 4-seeded Patriots. Chargers are the 5 seed at 13-3, and the Colts are the 6 seed. I know what you're thinking, Pittsburgh fans. I want you to stop it right there. There's no hope for you, all right? You get bounced in the first round by the Colts, just like the Texans did as the 3 seed. This time, it happens to you. Colts move on, and the Patriots also move on. They scrape by that 13-3 wildcard Chargers team by an inch, thanks to their home field advantage that they got in Foxborough, even though they were 9-7. They then face the Houston Texans, who they beat by a field goal in Houston to move on again to the AFC Championship. So nothing changes there. They still end up going back to Kansas City to face off against the Chiefs and the new kid on the block, the MVP of the league in his first year playing starting quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. This time, however, they don't have that comeback experience of 28-3. And they're not on the same page. There's not the same cohesion within the team, and especially between head coach and quarterback. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick have been butting heads all season. Lamar Jackson is breathing down Brady's throat with all the videos coming out of camp, seeing how talented he is. And they don't manage that comeback in the last minutes in Kansas City. And the reigning MVP, Patrick Mahomes, goes in his first year to the Super Bowl instead of Tom Brady. And for a 3rd straight year, the Patriots season ends in disappointment. And instead of that boring matchup that we got in the Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Rams that ended up in an awful scoreline of 13-3, one of the worst Super Bowls I ever had to watch, especially considering I'm a Rams fan, we end up with a rematch, one of the greatest prime time games we've ever seen earlier in that season, 54-51 that the Rams won over the Chiefs. We get a rematch in the Super Bowl. But unfortunately for me as a Rams fan, Todd Gurley wasn't healthy. There was no chance that they were going to win against Patrick Mahomes and that high-powered offense. There's no way that Jared Goff could carry that team. So the Rams come up short. It was a high-scoring game, ends up 35-32. But the Chiefs, in Patrick Mahomes' first season as a starter, wins MVP, wins a Super Bowl, and wins Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 53. With Jackson still sitting on the bench behind Brady rather than starting for the Ravens are obviously bad. And Joe Flacco is still their starting quarterback. They go, without him, they go 5-11 from 14-2. Jackson's MVP season never even happens. He never even sees a snap. While the things between Brady and Belichick aren't great, they still have one season together under contract and they play it out. They still do pretty well, and with an extra win against the Ravens, they go 13-3. Ravens aren't the number 1 seed. They're out of the playoffs entirely. They end up being the 1 seed in the playoffs. And after the Titans beat the Texans in the playoffs, and with the Steelers losing in their first round matchup again, yes, Pittsburgh fans, sorry, nothing changes. Your team went 9-7 instead of 8-8. They didn't become great all of a sudden. But with them winning the division, losing, and with the Titans beating the Texans instead of the Patriots, Titans face off as the 6th seed against the Patriots in Foxborough again, and again the wheels fall off, and again Tom Brady and the Patriots are out of the playoffs, even worse fashion this time as they don't even get a win. And that's how the Tom Brady era in New England ends, just like it did in our timeline, except this time with 2 less Super Bowls to his name. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, just a minor part of the NFL season, Kansas City still ends up winning the Super Bowl. Same path, they end up beating the Titans, obviously in the AFC Championship, and going on to win a 2nd straight Super Bowl in Patrick Mahomes' second season, who's possibly having the best start to an NFL career anyone's ever seen. And without Lamar winning the MVP, Patrick Mahomes wins MVP again. Not a bad start to your career. What also changes this season is with the Ravens going with such a bad record, they also lose to a few teams. They lose to the Bengals, who still, even though with the extra win, end up with the first overall pick and end up taking Joe Burrow. But with giving the Chargers an extra win and dropping to 5-11, their record puts them right in position to draft 6 overall. They wanted to move off Joe Flacco a while ago, and it's become evident they need a quarterback. And while Joe Burrow may not still be on the board, there are 2 other QBs that might be of interest. At number 6, though, one of them is already off the board, so the decision's made for them. With the 6th overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Justin Herbert, quarterback, Oregon. Even with the Chargers now quarterbackless, the options for Tom really were between the Bucs and the Chargers. Chargers now don't have Justin Herbert, but let's be honest, Brady still probably picks Tampa, and in our new universe, he still does. The weapons were more viable in Tampa. Has Mike Evans, has Chris Godwin, that's what he's always wanted, versus Keenan Allen. I know Keenan's a good wide receiver, but in Tampa you have 2 good ones, a really good defense and an O-line that's solid. And realistically, one thing you can't change in California, the income tax, that might have played a huge part in that. So he ends up going to Florida instead of California, picks Tampa over the Chargers still, and the Chargers are without a quarterback. Some other draft changes I also wanted to mention. Chargers, without Herbert on the board, obviously, are forced into taking a tackle. As you know, there was a team need they ended up addressing in a later draft. They end up taking Mekhi Becton, sorry. The Jets end up taking Tristan Wirfs, as Mekhi Becton isn't there anymore. The Bucs' need was still only on that offensive line. I know Tristan Wirfs is a huge loss, but they still end up picking up Austin Jackson to fill that tackle role. And the Dolphins, without Jackson, end up taking Patrick Queen at linebacker. And that completes our draft changes. Not too much changes, but not having Tristan Wirfs to protect Brady is still impactful for sure. Without Herbert, obviously the Chargers are worse, but not a whole lot worse. They still had Tyrod Taylor, but in week 1 with the whole lung puncture thing, they don't have Tyrod Taylor, so they end up losing week 1 instead of winning that game. And they also end up losing to the Raiders in that OT game that happened in week 15. So instead of 7-9, the Chargers end up at 5 wins. With 3 extra losses to the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Browns this season, with Herbert at the helm, the Ravens end up going 8-8 and end up missing the playoffs. Obviously, without Jackson there, they're worse, but better than they were in our new timeline last season with Joe Flacco starting. And with that extra win, the Browns don't end up going 11-5. They actually end up going 12-4. Just like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who went 12-4 after that 11-0 start. But this time off of I think it was the 4th tiebreaker in the order of NFL tiebreakers, the Browns actually end up winning the division instead of the Steelers, which makes that 11-0 collapse even more hilarious. With 2 years of sitting behind Tom Brady, I'd say Lamar Jackson's still in a good position to start out his essentially rookie season, but 3rd season, but his 1st season starting with the Patriots, and now has his MVP season, this time for New England. Patriots go 12-4, only losing to the Bills twice, to the Rams, and to the Chiefs. With all of those different wins and losses happening around the league, AFC picture shapes up a little differently with the Chiefs at the 1 seed, Bills 2 seeded, Browns now winning the AFC North, ending up at the 3 seed, Titans as the 4 seed, Patriots as the top seeded in the wild card, Steelers, and then the Colts. In the NFC, it's still Packers as the 1 seed, Saints as the 2 seed, Seattle at the 3, and the football team as the 4 seed, Buccaneers 5, Rams 6, and the Chicago Bears at 7. The Bills still go on to beat the Colts 27-24 as nothing changes there, and the Browns still go on to embarrass the Steelers. Just this time it happens in Cleveland instead of Pittsburgh, so probably more enjoyable for the Browns' first playoff win in what feels like forever. And our alternate universe actually has a parallel to our actual universe, as the Tennessee Titans spoil Lamar Jackson's MVP season again with a first-round exit, sending him out of the playoffs without a win again. The Bills beat the Browns 13-7 in a close match, and the Chiefs hammer the Titans out of the playoffs 33-14. Once again, the Chiefs and the Bills face off in the AFC Championship, and unfortunately, Bills Mafia, sorry to tell you, nothing changes there. Same outcome happens. And the Chiefs, for the 3rd year in a row, head to the Super Bowl. This time to face Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Tom Brady gets his chance at revenge against Patrick Mahomes, and even without Tristan Wirfs, nothing changes in the NFC playoffs, and nothing changes in that Super Bowl game. Yeah, while Tom Brady might have a little less protection, he'll have at least more protection than Patrick Mahomes had in that game, because we know how that ended up going. And finally, Patrick Mahomes shows he's vulnerable, loses finally in the Super Bowl, and Tom Brady finally gets to lift that Lombardi trophy again. With all the different wins and losses that happened this season, the draft order looks very different headed into 2021. Now, while there were quite a few changes in the picks that I think would be made, the Broncos still, I think, end up picking Pat Surtain. They were pretty focused on corners. I think that's the best fit for them. Obviously, if the quarterbacks are off the board, the top 3 quarterbacks, they obviously pass on Justin Fields. I thought they were going to draft him during the draft. They obviously didn't, so they wouldn't pick him here. I think they still end up going Pat Surtain. He's been pretty good in the league so far. I think he's a good fit for them, so they go with him. And the Lions still end up going Penei Sewell. But at our next pick is the change, and I think the most impactful change. With the 7th overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Ja'Marr Chase, wide receiver, Louisiana State. So unfortunately, we don't get to see that Joe Burrow-Ja'Marr Chase connection from LSU come to life in the NFL. The Bengals don't have the chance with that extra win to draft him. I don't think Dolphins pass on him to draft Jalen Waddle, even though I really like Waddle. I think Ja'Marr Chase was the obvious number 1 wide receiver, and if they had a chance to draft him, they would have drafted him. If they had the chance to get him right now and swap for Waddle, I think they'd do it. Ja'Marr is obviously that guy, and I think they would have drafted him back then if they had the chance, and here they do, and they absolutely do. The Panthers still take J.C. Horn. The Chargers, without a quarterback now, as Justin Herbert is in Baltimore, end up going Justin Fields instead of Rashawn Slater. The Bengals, without Ja'Marr on the board, at 10, I think they take Rashawn Slater there. I think they weren't locked in on a wide receiver. Obviously, you have T. Higgins, you have Tyler Boyd. Their wide receiver room was good, but it was either Ja'Marr Chase or an offensive lineman. Penei Sewell's off the board. I think if they were going to take an offensive lineman, it was going to be Slater anyways. That's probably their number 1 lineman on the board anyways, and he ends up here perfectly in their lap. Chargers pass on him to go quarterback. Slater ends up in Cincinnati. I can't remember the next pick, or else I'd say it right now instead of cutting, but I'm going to have to cut because I forgot who the next pick was. The Eagles still go with Devontae. That was the one I couldn't remember. Eagles still go Devontae. The Bears pick up Mac Jones as Justin Fields isn't on the board anymore. Jets go Jalen Waddle as he drops. Cowboys still get Micah Parsons. Ravens still go Rashad Bateman, a little earlier in the draft this time though. Vikings take Elijah Vera Tucker at 22. Patriots select Christian Darrisaw because I feel like that's a very Patriots pick. And I'm not doing the second and third round because that's too much and fuck that. On to the next season. Now, I don't like to project injuries, so with Lamar Jackson this season, I'm going to have him staying healthy. I know he got hurt in the real season during this season, but that's not fun. I'm going to have him stay healthy. And with a healthy Lamar Jackson, rather than Mac Jones, the Patriots end up going 13-4. While the Dolphins end up going 10-7. They don't get out to such a slow start with Jamar Chase in the offense, and they end up going 10-7. And as a result, make the playoffs. And as a result, Brian Flores is still the coach in Miami. And as a result, we don't have the whole situation that happened in the offseason, even though I think that probably still happens eventually. As for the Ravens, they also go 13-4. With Herbert leading the way instead of Huntley. They beat the Rams, they beat the Packers, they beat the Browns, and they beat the Steelers both times. The Bengals still do all right without Jamar Chase, as they still have Joe Burrow, but they lose week 1 against the Vikings without Chase's big performance, and they lose later in the season without Chase against the Chiefs. Although they do pick up a win against the Chargers, 9-8 isn't even enough to make the playoffs in the AFC this season, and the team that ended up making the Super Bowl in real life doesn't even make the playoffs to have the chance. And the Chargers are obviously way worse without Herbert. They lose to Washington week 1, they lose to Kansas City, they lose the Browns, the Eagles, the Bengals, and the Steelers during the season to go 3-14. The Chiefs, now 14-3 instead of 12-4 with the 2 extra wins, end up as the 1 seed, Patriots the 2 seed, Ravens 3, and the Titans fall from the 1 all the way down to the 4. The Bills, now that they lost to the division to the Patriots, end up as the 5 seed, not the 3 seed, with the Dolphins getting that 6 seed spot, and the Raiders being the team that sneaks into the playoffs, while the Steelers and the Bengals miss. In the NFC, things do change slightly. Buccaneers end up as the 1 seed, the Packers the 2 seed, Cowboys are still the 3 seed, but the Cardinals are actually the one that win the division at 11-6 in the NFC West, as the Rams lost an extra game and they dropped down to the 5 seed. San Francisco is still the 6 seed with the Eagles still at 7. 49ers still against the Cowboys, end up beating them 23-17 with that awful decision to go for it and slide by the Cowboys and run out of time to run a play. And the Rams, this time in Phoenix, still beat the Cardinals, this time 31-18. The Packers once again fall apart in the playoffs, this time 1 round earlier against the 9-8 Eagles, and waste another MVP season from Aaron Rodgers. This time his 2nd, not his 3rd. But the Eagles roll in to Lambeau Field and squeak out a victory, an ugly victory, 13-10. In the AFC, the Bills still smash the Titans this time rather than the Patriots, while the Patriots, with a 3-touchdown performance from Lamar Jackson, take care of the Raiders 30-18. The Ravens, now without Lamar Jackson, have Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert puts up an immense performance. Puts up 4 touchdowns, 400 yards to win 35-28. This time the Rams and 49ers end up facing off in the divisional round rather than in the NFC Championship, but the result is all the same. Jaquiski Tartt still drops that interception that would have sealed the game for the 49ers, and the Rams win 20-17. While the Bucs get a pretty easy matchup that they also took care of in real life. They took care of the Eagles in the first round. This time it happens in the divisional. Same score, same result, and the Rams and Bucs will play in the NFC Championship. And luckily for us in our timeline, the Chiefs and Bills still get to play in the divisional round, and the result's the same. That legendary game that we saw, 42-36, still happens, and the Chiefs still move on to the AFC Championship. Remember though, Mahomes to this point has never even not made it to the Super Bowl. He's won 2 and lost 1. This time though, he'll have to contend with either the Patriots or the Ravens. But it's going to be the Patriots with Lamar Jackson, the experience of sitting behind Tom Brady, and the legacy and great coaching from Bill Belichick that wins it over the Ravens and the young Justin Herbert. It's a close game though, 35-32. The almost comeback that the Buccaneers staged against the Rams that happened in the divisional round in our timeline happens this time in our alternate timeline. But it's something that came out of nowhere for us. We weren't expecting this because we didn't see the 28-3 comeback that Brady staged against the Falcons because it never happened, thanks to Robert Alford. This time, this comeback also falls up short against the Rams. Result ends up the same, 30-27, and the Rams are headed to the Super Bowl again. But it's not going to be the Bengals. Bengals didn't even make the playoffs. It's going to be between the Patriots or the Chiefs. And everybody going into this is expecting the Chiefs. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has, to this point in his career, not even missed the Super Bowl before, let alone missed the playoffs. He's never not been in the Super Bowl since he's been in the league. This time, it's the Patriots, Lamar Jackson, and Bill Belichick who get the last laugh as they win in a dogfight, 28-21, an overtime thriller that the Patriots end up on top. This time, instead of the Bengals, it's the Patriots representing the AFC against the NFC representing Rams in their home stadium of SoFi for Super Bowl 56. And it comes down to the wire. This is a close match, but to me, I don't think anyone was stopping Cooper Kupp. And this may be Rams bias is coming in, but let me hold on to it, okay? Let me hold on to the championship. The Rams still hold on. It was a thriller. Patriots are much improved with Lamar Jackson, but the Rams with Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp still win Super Bowl MVP. It is 30-23. But I'd like to think a lot of things are going to change in the future. You know, this is just a timeline up to now. What could happen in the next years coming up? I mean, Brian Flores is still the coach in Miami. Does someone else hire their coach now? I don't know. Things change in the draft. The Chargers are much higher in the draft this time and actually end up going in front of the Lions to select Aiden Hutchinson. I don't know enough about Aiden Hutchinson and how he's played so far to judge him. I mean, he had 3 sacks in one game, hasn't done much in another, so I don't even know what to wage on him, but it could have implications for a long time. I hope you enjoyed. That's where our timeline ends because that's about when I'm filming it now. It's midway through the 2022 season. I'm not going to project on a season that's not even done yet. So, but yeah, let me know if you want to see more of these videos. I could do it on different sports too. I have quite a few in mind that I think would be good. This is my first video on this, so you know things might be a little not perfected yet. I'm still getting the hang of this whole thing. So, but if you think you'd like these videos, maybe think about hitting subscribe, hitting the like button. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, I look forward to making more of these because this is fun. This is really fun to put together. I really enjoyed it. And whether people watch it or not, I think I'm going to make more of these. So, yeah. Next one, I don't know what it'll be about. Either NFL or NBA, I think, though. So, stay tuned. All right. Thanks. Bye.